Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com, and what I'm going to be doing today is just a quick overview of CSS. For those I really haven't done like an intro to CSS video yet, so figured I would do that. So what I'm going to do here is I have a folder called CSS Practice. I'm going to make two files, index.html, okay, and we're going to make a new file called style.css. And I'm using Visual Studio Code as my editor. So let's see here. In index.html, we're just going to do a quick HTML boilerplate. So I just type in HTML, little thing pops up, hit tab, and there we go. We have an HTML boilerplate. So I'm just going to put a couple little quick elements here. H1, hello world. Okay, I'm going to put a div. And I'll put some lorem ipsum in there. Lorem. It's just some boilerplate, just BS text. Good. Okay, so we have that there so we can play with it. Neat. Okay, and the other thing I want to do is I want to make sure we link up our CSS. So I'll start typing in link. So here's our link for CSS. And yeah, perfect. It already kind of goes to style.css, and that works for me. So you just need this in your head tag to link to your CSS file, and just some stuff to style. Good. So now all we need to do is open this in the browser. So let's open the containing folder, index.html, open with Google Chrome, and there we go. Okay. So back to VS Code. Now essentially everything works in your style.css file, and basically the idea is this. You select what you want to style, and then you say how you want to style it. So your selector, which is always what comes first, could be as simple as just the tag you're trying to style. So maybe I just want to style that H1. Okay, so I would just put H1, and then I put curly brackets where I put my styles. And my styles, there's a bunch of styles. I'm not going to go over every single one. Those you can Google. The idea here is to learn the syntax and just kind of the thinking of CSS. So I type in color, okay, and so color colon would be the property that I'm changing, and then I put the value. So I want to change it to orange. And then I put a semicolon saying that particular style is done. Also, let's say I want to make it also text transform. So I want to like do something to the text transform. Let's make it all uppercase. Save. So you see it's a semicolon after each style. Okay, that's just the syntax. So I hit save. Now if I go back here and I refresh, see now hello world is orange in all uppercase. Okay, so that's the basic idea. But let's say I have this. Let's give you a different scenario. Let's say I had two H1s. So I have this H1 here, and I have an H1 here. Okay, save. So just because I chose H1 here, my selector is my H1, it's going to take all H1s. So see, now I have two hello worlds. But what if I want them both different? Okay, I really only want the particular style I just made associated only with that one. One way I could do it is I could give this an ID. So I'll give the first H1 an ID property. Okay, but IDs always have to be unique, so only one element on the page can have the same ID, so that I can give it a unique style. So we'll give it, title. It will be the ID. Save. Okay, so now I can say, hey, I only want the H1 that has the ID of title, or I could even just do this. I could just do title. It doesn't really matter since it's an ID. And there you go. Only the element that has the ID title, which is represented by the hashtag, will get that style. Okay, so see only the first one. Now let's say I only wanted to target this H1, the H1 that's under the div. There's two ways I could do that. So let's go back to CSS. I could do div H1, okay, and that would get all H1s under a div. Doesn't matter if they're the grandchild or the child, it'll get all H1s. Now let's just give it a style, color, purple. Save. Okay, so now if we go back to the page, see now hello world is purple. And only that one, because I just said only the h1 that's under a div gets purple. But let's say I have an h1. Let me think about that. Let's do another div. No. Let's do a main tag inside of the div with another h1 inside of it. Right now, both of those will get purple because they're both h1s that are within a div. But let's say I only want this one to be purple. I don't want this one to be purple. I only want the direct child, the one that's right under the div, not the one that's under the main, because it's like 2 steps down. So in that case, what I could do is CSS. I change this with an arrow, like that, which just means direct children of the div. So the second h1, which is not a direct child, it technically is inside the main tag. So the main's the child, and making the h1 the grandchild. This h1, so this is the grandchild of the div. That one we don't want to change. So let's see here. If I added that arrow, does it fix it? And see, this one doesn't get styled now because it's not a direct child of the div. Cool. There's a lot of different ways I could do this. Now, another way I could do this is I can give this a class. Now, a class can be given to multiple elements. So I can give a class to as many different elements as I want. So if I give this a class, we'll say green. Okay, and then below it we'll have an h2 that also has a class of green. And this one says goodbye world. So they both have the same class. To edit a class, you just do dot green. So the dot is always the class. Okay, so if I do dot green, I can do color green. Save. Okay. And there you go. I can select both. Very neat. You always want to be very specific, because the more specific you are, the less likely you're going to have weird conflicts in your CSS. So you're always better to be more specific than less specific. So you, to the extent that you want to use a lot of these little, instead of just doing the name of the tag, be careful. Okay. And these selectors can get as complicated as you want. So I could be like a div only direct h1s under div that have the ID of cheese. See, that's what that would mean. So basically, it has to be an h1 with the ID of cheese that's a direct child of a div. You can have some fun with that. Let me just show you one more way to select, and then we'll get into some different styling stuff. I want to get into, I want to add here, let's add an h3. And I'm just going to make up a property. So we'll just say cheese equals Gouda. Okay, you can make up your own properties. It doesn't really matter. Okay. And we'll just say this one has hello in it. And let's say I wanted to style it based on anyone that has cheese equals Gouda. Okay, so I could just do this. Okay, cheese equals Gouda. So square brackets always means attributes. So I could even just do it. So I could simply just do it anyone that has a cheese attribute. So anything that has a cheese attribute will get styled. And I can be specific and say anything that cheese, where cheese equals Gouda, gets styled. And let's just try that out. Color, let's see, it's complaining. Is it complaining? Cheese equals Gouda, yep. Okay. Color, this one will do red. So I hit save there. And see, this hello is now red. Okay, so those are just different ways of doing selectors. A lot more selectors to play with. Now let's just kind of talk about like doing just some basic effects. So let's say I want it where this div here, this h1, when you hover over that H1, it changes color. So what you do is you do what's called a pseudo selector, and you put colon, and you put hover. That means this style is applied when you hover over the selected elements. So in this case, we're going to change it to green. Okay, so basically it's purple, but when I hover over it, it'll be green. So I'll refresh. Now if I hover it over it, see, it becomes purple, green, purple, green, purple, green. Okay, so you can change the styling of things like that. And again, this is just a real basic. There's a lot of different pseudo selectors. I'm not going to get into all of them. And then you can separately watch my videos on Flexbox and Grid to kind of do like how you set up a nice layout and stuff. This is just kind of basic selectors. I'm trying to think if there's any other really like low-hanging fruit selectors. I mean, with that, you can pretty much go pretty far. Just some good practices is taking advantage of like the semantic tags. So basically setting up your website like this, kind of like header, and then doing all your head stuff in there, all the top stuff there, having a main tag, and then having a footer tag. Okay, and then styling it that way. So that way you can be like, you know, header, if there's, you know, a div that's under my header tag. And that's a good way to be specific without having to sprinkle too many classes and too many IDs and too many custom attributes into your code or into your HTML. But always be specific to the extent that you can like kind of be specific like this and say, okay, this tag, this under this tag, this under this tag, to make sure that, again, that style doesn't collide with another style. That's going to be useful. Also, when you're doing this, a very useful tool. So if you hit Control-Shift-I in Chrome, you have this Elements tab in your inspector. That's right down here. And if you go right over here, you can see the styles. So you can see all the styles that are applied to your Chrome website, and you can toggle them on and off. Okay, so right now, what is it showing me? Well, let's see here. I'll just choose a whole website. So if I want to see the styles that are applied to the H1, I can see, hey, look, there's this title attribute, and it gets this particular style, and I can turn that on and off. So you can kind of figure out like which styles are giving you trouble by playing with this, which is pretty useful, and get some styling with the box and whatnot. Aside from that, I guess padding is probably a good discussion to have. So let's put some content back in here. Main, we'll put the H1 in main. H1, hello world. So now we only have an H1 in hello world, which is not styled because none of our selectors will apply to that. So what I want to do is clear all this out and do main H1, and I'm going to give this a border. Border 3 pix solid black. Save. See, there's our box. Okay, but now take a look that there's space. Like if I were to go, let's see here, I can go here and I can kind of highlight certain things. Where's my H1 here? Did I mess up? Did I do something funny? Oh, here we go. Nope. Interesting. Let's go take a look at my index.html, see why the H1 might not be showing up. It should be showing up. Oh well. But bottom line is, if I were to change like what's called padding, so let's say we add 30 pixels of padding. Save. That did not apply. Why not? Where did I go wrong? 30 pix padding, 30 pix. Oh, me, I didn't save it. There we go. Hmm. Just make sure that's actually updating. Yeah, something about the website's not. Seems like the website's frozen, so I'm going to reopen it. Open Google Chrome. And there you see how the space inside the box kind of grew? So like this space right here, that's padding. So padding is always inside the border. Okay? Think of it like padded, like a padded cell in an insane asylum. The padding's on the inside of the cell. Now, if I go over here and I do margin, and let's say I do 30 pixels of margin, save. Okay, see, I get this space here. That's margin. And I can give this also a fixed width. So let's say I only want this box to have like a width of 50% of the website. Save. I save with 50. Oh, got the colon. Save. See, now it's only 50%, but see how it's not centered? If you want to center a box, you want to center like a div or any kind of block element, the trick is, once you set the width of it, you have to change the margin, the left-right margin. So what you can do is you can set the top right margin to whatever. So we'll say 20 pixels top bottom. But then you set a second number, which represents the left-right margin, and you set that to auto, and that should center the box. And that goes for any block element. There you go. Now if I want to, but the text is not centered. So if I want to center the text, so the inline content, then I'll do like a text align center. So always be careful. What am I centering? Am I centering inline text or am I centering a block? So you can know which approach you have to take. See, and there you go. And see, that's neat. Okay, and then if I want to round the corners, I could do border radius. And we'll just do like 20 pixels of border radius. Save. And there you go. You get nice little like rounded corners. And that's a nice little overview of how to work with CSS for styling your website and having some fun with it. So I'll leave it at that. Go play with it, practice. It's really good, developing your own style. There's much better designers out there that'll teach you sort of the actual sort of aesthetic tricks. But hopefully this gave you a sort of a functional idea of how to use CSS. Have a great day and enjoy.